This is the Baseball Fury podcast, hosted by Jimmy Flame.
You're tuned to the Big Game James Show on iHeartRadio. And now your host, Mr. Big Game James, Jimmy Flame.
What's up, everybody? This is your host, Jimmy Flame. For the Big Game James Show, the Baseball Fury. There's a lot going on in the world of baseball, and we're going to talk about all of it. Coming right up. Stay tuned. The Baltimore Orioles are looking everywhere to find talent. Let me start this over again. Welcome to the Big Game James Show. This is Jimmy Flame. Ow! Your host of the Baseball Fury. And yeah, in case you haven't figured it out just yet, still haven't been able to change the name on iHeartRadio from the Big Game James Show to the Baseball Fury. So I'm going to keep on keeping on like I have been, bringing you funny quips, if you will, and all the latest, greatest, amazing baseball news there is available. But with that, I'm going to add that this coming baseball season, I'm going to be concentrating more on the Baltimore Orioles because that's my team. And after reviewing shows of the past, I realized that my track record for predicting other teams, like their fates, the things that they do, is about as bad as John Riggins picking a Washington Redskins football game. So, where's my laugh track at? I don't know where to go. I think that's it. There we go. But yes, I'm free to admit that, in the spirit of transparency, that my skill level in picking teams to do the things that I'm picking them to do is horrid. It's horrendous. It's incredibly terrible. And so I've chosen to, I'm switching the format of this podcast from Major League Baseball at large, though I will cover some of the more major things in Major League Baseball, to the Baltimore Orioles. That's going to be my central focus. And it's going to be a little bit more opinionated than in times past. I'm still going to rely on data and reliable news sources, etc., to bring you my take on what's happening in the world of baseball, but more particularly Orioles baseball. But the days of Jimmy Flame covering Major League Baseball are pretty much over for now. I just can't seem to figure out my picks. So I'm going to save all that for the sports books and continue to lose money for the love of the game, if you will. Yeah. And with that, today's topic is not what it seems like on its face. Baltimore Orioles, as you know, just hired Mike Elias to essentially handle the team and run the entire Baltimore Orioles operation, which is good news for any Orioles fan out there, as you know. How he turned around the Houston Astros and turned them into World Series champions and contenders every year. And he did it fairly quickly using a model much akin to Billy Beane's Moneyball model. And we'll see if that translates well to the Orioles, but only time will tell. I'm pretty sure decisions are going to be made. It's going to just anger the fan base, of course. Adam Jones is all but gone. I'm sorry to say that. As much as we love him and as much of a perfect fit he is for the city, the state of Maryland at large, he's probably gone. I mean, he just might not have a role in this new Mike Elias-led, statistically founded baseball club. And with that, I was looking around Indeed.com. Sometimes I just hop on there to see what's going on in the hiring world, and I came across some peculiar listings from the Baltimore Orioles. So I'll just get right to it. They're looking for talent in places that you just wouldn't suspect. They're using job boards to search for some of their most important hires, not on the field, but in the office and in the dungeons of Camden Yards. Sorry, but you can't apply for a job to manage the team or to play shortstop or anything like that. That search is being handled by Mr. Elias, as you know. However, his first hire, Sig Majal, has used the popular job search engine Indeed to list openings for the team's analytical department. So, if you have a knowledge of an SQL database to filter out queries, etc., a statistical background, a degree in any of this stuff, a master's in any sort of mathematics, you could probably get a job with the Baltimore Orioles right now. And though I do say I don't regularly search listings for jobs, I'm very happy with what I'm doing. A particular listener brought this to my attention, and I found it fascinating that the team would use a forum such as Indeed to find a statistical analyst instead of the regular MLB job board or whatever. It's the job board where you can pay to sign up to learn about Major League Baseball job openings. And besides the analytical position, the team has also listed a partnership marketing coordinator. Quote, a listing for that job shouldn't be too surprising, as teams do it all the time, but looking for sabermetricians is a bit different. It's not, being a sabermetrician is not, it transcends statistics, even though it uses statistical formulas to create data and by consequence, create likely outcomes relying on such data. But this is just a little bit different because it's not like there's a zillion sabermetricians hanging around just waiting for a job. Now that remains to be seen. We'll see. But the other interesting point about these job listings is the applicants will report straight to Majal. And the salary is open. But reporting straight to this guy is what kind of caught my attention. I was like, of course, in my joking mind, I think, you ever wanted to meet the guy, just apply for a job, right? Anyhow, this position is responsible for creating and analyze baseball data sets. This is from the job application. Through the use of advanced statistical techniques with the goal of building and maintaining interpretable predictive models and player evaluation frameworks to aid in the decision-making of baseball operations executives. So, you ever wanted to work in the majors and you don't mind living in a dungeon and you want to report straight to one of the top guys and you want to apply for a position that doesn't advertise its salary, go right ahead. Be my guest. I just hope you pick the right players. Based on data, of course. By the way, SQL, if you didn't know, and I learned about this stuff when I was taking statistics back in college. It means structured query language and is the standard language for relational database management systems. It's a programming language, essentially. The job says you need a bachelor's degree in statistics, analytics, operations research, mathematics, computer science, or an equivalent. And, though not required, a master's degree is preferred. Now, Majal's story is kind of unusual because he has 2 engineering degrees, at least from a baseball standpoint. He has 2 engineering degrees from University of California, Davis, and earned advanced degrees in operations research and cognitive psychology, human factors at San Jose University. He also worked at NASA and Lockheed Martin before turning to baseball back in 2005, and with Mike Elias, turned that Houston Astros program around. He also worked for the St. Louis Cardinals. He started with the St. Louis Cardinals, rather, and joined the Astros in 2012. With the Astros, he worked with players from all the way from the minors up to the majors. At one point telling the New York Times that, I thought this was an interesting quote, "There are species, they're not aliens for which we need some expert to translate and communicate. I don't buy into the idea that a socially mature, sensitive analyst cannot speak to a baseball player, and my experience is that it works just fine." So there you have it. He's not afraid to talk to players. I suppose that's a good thing, right? He left Houston at the end of the 2018 season. Not sure if he was looking for a job or not, but Mike Elias gives him the call. Orioles sign him up immediately, and hence the purge begins. And we'll see who stays. We'll see who goes. All the way from Class A Frederick all the way up to the Baltimore Orioles Camden Yards team. So this gives us, his hiring and Mike Elias' hiring as well, gives us some major clues as to the direction the Orioles are heading. Because last season was atrocious. I'm not even going to get into it because it was just absolutely atrocious. And there's other words to describe that are much worse that I'm sure that you've used as a listener or just as anyone in general. And you could probably use them for me as well, if you like. It's going to be fascinating to see what these guys have in mind for the O's. For me, with coming from a background in statistics, at least from an academic standpoint, and from my understanding of sabermetrics, I'm very fascinated to see what they do. I'm sure we're going to see a lot of names that we are completely unfamiliar with come up through the ranks. As we as humans do hold biases for names and other features of a human being that have absolutely nothing to do with their on-field performance. It brings me back to keeps at least it refreshes my mind of some the famous Billy Beane signings. Kevin Youkilis being one of them. I mean, he was a guy who, for all intents and purposes, should be a major leaguer, but there were these biases that a lot of scouts and recruiters kept using against him, such as his awkward batting stance, blah, 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 blah. But guess what? When the ball hits the bat and it flies out into left field and hits the ground for a base hit, it doesn't matter how the swing started. It really doesn't. And Youkilis was one of those guys that was doing a lot of that in the minor leagues and was being well overlooked. Not minor leagues, but even in high school and after, completely overlooked until Billy Beane began incorporating his new sabermetric style into determining whether a player should be in the major leagues or not. And fortunately for Kevin Youkilis, who went on to have an awesome career with the Red Sox later on. Speaking of my Orioles bias. It was all about the paper, the numbers, and the data. So this sort of mentality coming to the Orioles really excites me because I'm quite frankly, I'm just curious to see who makes it down the pipeline. These players who I've definitely overlooked. I'm sure I'm going to see a lot of surprises. I'm sure we're all going to see a lot of surprises beginning this next season. Probably starting with free agency. Who knows how active the Orioles are going to be in free agency. I don't foresee the Orioles signing any big-name players. That's just not in the style of Mike Elias to do that. He's if it's not for trading players down the pipeline for future picks, that's all I foresee. But then again, remember what I said at the beginning of this program? I am absolutely horrible. I'm worse than John Riggins at picking probabilities. Anyhow, I like to keep these shows short and sweet, within 15 minutes, and I'm hitting my mark right about now. Be sure to visit me on Facebook at facebook.com/JimmyFlame77, Twitter at JimmyFlame77. Leave your questions, comments, suggestions, all across social media, or right here if you head over to Spreaker. Once again, this is Jimmy Flame for the Baseball Fury on iHeartRadio. We'll see you next time, ladies and gentlemen. Have a wonderful day and keep it statistical.